Welcome back and thanks for joining us today. I'm Amber Kennedy and we're here to talk about navigating eligibility. The differences between 1, 2, and 3 are very easy to navigate when you know it, but when you're still learning about what it is that makes a division, it can be very confusing. Division 1 looks like this big shiny thing that everyone should pursue in search of a scholarship, while Division 2 and 3 don't seem nearly as competitive as Division 1. And I want to dispel those thoughts. So when you break up divisions, you can look at it in a financial model first, which is Division 1 offers the ability for a full scholarship. I say the ability because it is not guaranteed that even if you are recruited by a Division 1 school, that you will have a full scholarship offered to you. That does not mean that you can't get financial or academic aid, because that is still possible at those institutions. They just have the capacity for a full scholarship. Division 2, you find more packaged opportunities there in terms of academic, financial need-based aid, and athletic scholarship. They can package all this together so that you don't have to take out loans, or you have minimal loans to take out. And Division 3 can't give you athletic aid, but they can give you academic and financial need-based aid. Now, when you look at the competitiveness of these divisions, I think it's important to put everything into perspective. When you look at the competitive structure of these divisions, Division 1 is split into Power 5 and mid-major schools. So Power 5 happen to be the Big Ten, Pac-12 conferences that you tend to see on TV, the Texases, the Nebraskas, the Penn States. All of these schools work in the SECs, all of these schools work in an area of revenue generation and opportunities in terms of funding that are different than what other mid-major schools see. They also have a larger population size, or tend to. In mid-majors, you still get fully funded programs, but it's not to that same competition level as the Power 5, where you get future NBA, NFL, professional athletes out of. That does not mean you can't be a professional athlete. It's just a different path. An example of that is, I don't know if you all watched the softball championships in 2020, but JMU making a run in the World Series, insane. Because a school that's from a mid-major conference has not made it that far or unseated a first seed school in the history of the entire tournament. So seeing that in the World Series and seeing a mid-major school that was led by a Black female pitcher was an amazing thing to see. But it's also something that you don't see happen often, which is, it just shows you it's not the competitiveness level that changes, it's just different depending on what you're looking for in terms of environment. Now, I myself competed at a Division 2 school, and that didn't lack competition-wise. We finished each year in the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, and what we played in terms of level was comparable to mid-major schools that we played in the off-season. So from that experience, I was able to pursue a career in college coaching. I was able to pursue a professional career, and I was able to meet some amazing athletes along the way and show that what we're learning athletics-wise isn't linear. As long as you are a good athlete, a coachable athlete, a student of the game, and a student of what your coach is trying to teach you in these spaces, you can play anywhere. And I truly believe that. Division 3, I happen to work at a Division 3 institution now. NYU is a part of the UAA, which is one of the top competitive conferences in Division 3. And seeing some of our teams, our women's basketball team is number 2 in the country right now, and they're filthy. So I don't want you to think that just because you're choosing a Division 3 experience, you're lacking in the competitive space, because there are still teams and programs that push you to this competitive excellence that you've been searching for your entire life, or you've been trying to achieve your entire life. These student athletes just wanted something different out of their experience. Now, when you talk about experience, Division 1, 2, and 3 do have some specific rules and differences. Division 1, they have more allotted hours for training. So when you say you have more resources at a Division 1 school, it's to make sure that the student athlete is supported comparatively to the amount of hours that they're training. So you tend to see more academic advisor support in like the athletic departments in these spaces. You tend to see more one-on-one opportunities for student support in these spaces because they have such an intensive training schedule. Division 2, you have an intensive training schedule, but it's more about balance. They're very big on community impact. I know that's a part of their Make It Yours Division 2 motto. I will say that was the motto when I was a student athlete, so I don't know if it's the same, but it's definitely community focused, how you impact others around you, how you grow in your sport, and how you make your experience yours instead of it being determined for you. Division 3, you are really focused on your academics. So you're coming in, you know that you love this sport, you've dedicated X amount of time to it before you got to this university, and now you don't want your professional life to fall behind or your next step to fall behind while you're pursuing this competitive excellence. You want to make sure that both of these paths are supported and growing at the same rate. So it's important to know, acknowledgement-wise, that there are different hours allotted per the division in terms of training and what you're able to pursue. Now, if you're finding that in the recruiting process, you're not seeing a fit for the institution you'd like or the program you like, there are still different options for you. Looking at club sports, most universities have club sports where you pay some sort of dues or fees in order to participate. That's after a tryout process. Now, you're still playing in a competitive team. It's less travel, it's less commitment, so you can still pursue the academic and community building things you'd like to, while building the skill set that you have been for the last X amount of years. In terms of club sports, I will say every university is different, so it's important to check the policies that they have for what makes them unique to that school. I just don't want you to think that there's not an opportunity for you to still be competitive if you're not finding the right fit on the varsity level. Now, intramurals is a more relaxed form of club where you don't necessarily have to pay dues. But again, specific to the university. I cannot stress that enough, specific to the university. Don't bring this video to them and be like, Amber said, I don't have to pay because I don't know your school. It's important to recognize that it's, again, a little bit less responsibility on how often you practice, how you make your schedule, how you show up for this team, and how much you put into it, you're gonna get out. But it really is determined on the experience that you want, and you shape that as opposed to a coach shaping that for you. And that's definitely an option if you're finding that a varsity commitment may just be out of your reach right now, depending on what you're hoping to study and pursue. Some deadlines that you should be aware of for these processes, especially in the varsity recruiting areas, are: one, you should be in the NCAA clearinghouse. That is the Eligibility Center. There are so many names for it. When I was younger, it was the clearinghouse. When I was a coach, it was the Eligibility Center. I may not know the term for it right now, but it's making sure that you are eligible to play in a college setting. That means your amateurism is intact, which means you have not received funds for any competition that you've been a part of, and you're academically eligible, which means that you have to meet a certain base requirements to be a student athlete, because you can't forget that you are a student first and an athlete second. But that's just how it's coupled to make sure that we can keep you moving in a successful path. In terms of other pieces of the recruitment process, besides making sure that you're eligible, it's figuring out how you know a school is for you. And when you're looking through this process, there are 1,000,001 schools you can apply to, but what makes it specific to your experience? Honestly, there are a bunch of things that you can narrow this down to. In-state, out-of-state. Financially, what can your family handle and what can they not? What offers are out there to you? Do you feel comfortable going to a different coast? Do you feel comfortable living in a different geographic climate than you're used to? I know a bunch of kids that I've coached that were from California and Hawaii and Brazil, and they had a hard time transitioning over to Northeast weather. And that is a real thing. Like, you have to make sure that you can be acclimated in this area. When you talk about the recruiting process and getting to know the coaches and the schools, it's important that you ask questions. I know that sounds so cliche, because you're like, what questions do I even ask? Well, I can give you a list. When I was a recruiting coordinator and I spoke to student athletes, I would typically reach out to them at the end of their sophomore year when they were attending camps and look to pursue heavy recruitment and a commit in their junior year. Now, That's in the AAU schedule for volleyball, and some sports may be different. Football does not have AAU options. Softball does, basketball does, and their timeline is a little bit different because I know a lot of basketball recruits commit in their senior year. So it is really specific to your sport. Now, people think that, or students think that you have to put on this face of like maturity for coaches and you have to let them know that you're the player that they're looking for. But I think it's most important to be genuine, because as a recruiter, I can see when you're uncomfortable. I can see when you're still figuring something out about yourself. I can see when you're a little bit nervous. And I think if anything, you and your family want to get to know the coaches for who they are with their team, for what they bring to the table in their community, in their department, and for how they see your growth in these next 4 years. Because it's more than just, oh, will I get playing time when I first get there? It's like, what do you see for me in this space? How can I contribute to the winning culture that you're building or continuing? What are your goals in the next 4 years? Where do you see your program going? It's important to ask, do you see yourself being here for X amount of time? Because while my coach was there for 25 years, sometimes coaches have different timelines, and that's okay. It's just important to know what you're getting into, because from having a coach that was at my institution for 25 years to seeing a team have a new coach every year, it's very much figuring out how you can best grow and fit in this environment. I think it's also important to ask if they have any camps. Most camps have their student athletes at them. And I think in terms of like getting to know the team and getting to know the real culture, you have to meet the students you would be playing with. So it's important to get out, to see their style, to be coached by them, to see if how they coach or how they give information is how you can receive information. Because in terms of you growing while you're there, yes, there's going to be some growth, but there has to be some base understanding of like, oh, I can play for this person. I believe in what this person is telling me. I believe that this person is supporting me. And I believe that I can be better here, be a better person, be a better student, be a better athlete. So it takes a lot of thought. It takes a lot of authenticity. It takes a lot of vulnerability. But you have to ask questions that are important to you. Now, when you talk about the academic components of navigating eligibility, you have to think about the experience that you want for yourself. I myself was a recruiting coordinator for one of the most elite academic experiences in the country, in the Ivy League, and they were very set, like base numbers that you had to reach. You had to be a high achieving student that could show that with their course grades, but also course strength. With their test scores, I know that a lot of them are waived, but we're moving back into a period when SATs and ACTs are going to be required. So can you keep pursuing this level of like high academic pursuit? I think that's very important, because I don't want you to think or stress yourself out to the point where you are having difficulty balancing something, because this experience is supposed to be for you. So I'm not saying shoot for the stars or shoot for the rocks. Like there are in between places that you know you can be supported, and it's all very dependent on the program that you're looking to study. I know a lot of people have a thought that if you want to pursue STEM, then you can't be an athlete, and that's false. It's really dependent on the school you go to. At a Division III and Division II level, I've had a lot of teammates and a lot of student athletes that I've coached that were engineers, that were pre-med, that wanted to pursue some form of STEM major that they wouldn't be able to, like nursing, that they wouldn't be able to in a typical Division I fashion because of the schedule. So it's important to recognize that as long as you meet the NCAA eligibility standards and you meet the standards of application for the university you're applying to, you can achieve whatever academic thing that you're hoping to. It's really pertains to how you will be able to navigate the space and the support that they have for you on the university. I don't want you to think, and I can give an example to this, I don't want you to think that just because this school is amazing and you should go here, but they don't have any support services, that it's your fault if you don't succeed in that area. Like, I know for a fact that some students need higher touch points. Some students need more support. Some students need some accessible learning help. And it's all dependent on if the university can provide you with that. As opposed to you fitting a mold, this university is supposed to fit you. I will say that as you're navigating this process as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, it will be difficult, it will be scary, but I hope that you carry yourself with a certain level of authenticity, of vulnerability, and of just openness, because this is going to be the next step into some of the greatest years of your life, or some of the most formative years of your life. And you are your biggest advocate. You're the one that's going to ask the questions. You're the one that's going to be in those spaces, be in that community. So it's important that you recognize that this space has to fit you just as much as you fit this space. And your experience is important because you are important. So value yourself, value what you bring to the table, and ask the questions.